And which speaker is loud enough on my phone? I don't even know. My phone.
It's sponsored by TagMeADate. Go to YouTube and sub now for every update. It's all wrestling here. No safe space. Now listen in. Time to hear from some of the greats.
Everyone queued up. Can my phone? You guys picking that up at all?
Yeah.
There it is. Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the War Report. Of course, we got well, for a very good reason, we got Solo Sikoa's theme playing right now. I mean, he's the new guy in this story, man. He's definitely the new guy. Hey, speaking of new guys, we got another little guest over there. How's it going, man? How's it going?
How's it going? They're asking you.
Hell yeah, good.
Hell yeah! Oh man, well we're in for it now, man. We're in for another edition of the War Report. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm so glad you can join us on a Tuesday evening. Steve, I think he said something about he's going to be traveling or he's in the car, so I really don't know. But he's going to be here. He's going to log in, I believe, when he can. Otherwise, we got the show here. We've got Kat, and who knows who's going to drop in on Kat's side. She always has one or several of the kids on the show, which is always, it's cool to get the kids' opinion because like we can talk about it all we want, but then
You mean free range?
yes, the free range. I mean, listen, they're you know they're better eatings that way.
Non-GMO.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Not GMO.
Once you send them off to get made into hamburger, they're much fresher if they're free range.
Alex, do your Rey Mysterio, how it sounds when he comes out. What does the sound like? The booyaka.
Booyaka.
If that's not how it sounds, that's what it should sound like.
What'd you say, baby?
He loses himself to call it, which is the dumbest thing ever.
Ooh.
Judgment Day and Bloodline might be a team together, I guess. I'm right, I guess.
Well, that's
no
what
idea.
we're here. See, this is what we're here to talk about, Alex, because we don't know. We seems like they don't like each other, but it also seems like they might work together. We don't.
But my 8-year-old is writing the show because if you remember 2 weeks ago when he popped in, he said this: we need the Judgment Day and the
I mean, he's not wrong.
He wrote this 2 weeks ago, and Steve was like, "That's not bad."
The
Right?
prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, he's the next one. I mean, we already have Autumn, who's going to be a wrestler, so maybe he's going to be the writer of the family.
Please, you can do better. You can do so much better than Kevin Dunn. Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
The much way when fight comes out, the more when people get injured or get broken a bone. Just like from like AJ Styles and Finn Balor.
I know you want AJ Styles back. I know.
Yeah, he literally injured his neck because of Finn Balor at the premium live event.
He's more. He knows what's going on more than I do half the time. That's ridiculous.
Damn, I'm
Oh my
still
God.
saying pay-per-view.
I know, right? He's flipped right over to it.
No, he
Premium live
goes.
event.
No, he goes through like everybody that streams a house show. He watches.
Oh wow! Really?
Every house show there is. So if someone's injured, he's reporting it faster than Ryan is. Or Dave Meltzer. Because
That's crazy.
because he'll come in my room like at 9 o'clock. Mom, this one just got hurt on the show. They broke their finger. Like he told me about Bray Wyatt breaking his finger. I had no clue Bray Wyatt broke his finger at a freaking house show. He told me.
This is the first I'm hearing of it. So
But this was like before WrestleMania. This was before the SummerSlam thing with LA Knight. I think it was when he was wrestling.
Yeah.
Who was he wrestling in the house shows? Jinder Mahal? Yeah.
Yeah, he broke his finger when he's about to do like the spider walk thing.
Yep.
Right.
He's right.
But you know what?
He literally break it on the post, so he's crying, but he win the match. of crying about the broken finger. So I was like completely weird about it.
All right, we're gonna have Alex is gonna have his own podcast 1 week. We're gonna start Alex's podcast. He's gonna be the host and talk about wrestling.
Did Bray finish that match?
In real life?
For real life?
I mean, listen, I think
original
honestly,
Sin Cara,
like the original. Okay, so the original Sin Cara broke his finger. For those who don't know, he broke his
couldn't
finger.
finish the match.
He couldn't finish. It was like dislocated. No, I think honestly, you kids, if one of your kids knows how to use YouTube and all
Still
that
back to
stuff.
1999.
He's the one that knows how to use YouTube. He's the one that crashed us a couple of weeks ago with hi
That's right.
on my own.
He was commenting on your own account. So that's what I'm saying. These kids could get together. Your kids could make their own wrestling podcast. I think for real.
No, because the reason why I need to go on YouTube for this, it's because I'm trying to be like a commentator.
You want to be a commentator?
Oh, so
That's
perfect.
There you go.
I like
Oh
that a
my
lot.
God.
He's gonna be commentary. That's beautiful.
You don't know? Here, okay, real quick before you go, show them how Pat McAfee does Shinsuke Nakamura. No, do Rick Boogs as Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm sorry.
No.
Ah, come on, real quick.
No, I want to leave it till 20 minutes.
No, do it real quick. Do Shinsuke. You can do
He wants to be on the show for 20 minutes. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
no. We got 2 words for you. Suck it.
What
That
an
made him
outro.
That
For
made
those
him
who just
wanna-
for those of you just listening and not watching the video version, he did it and then he walked off.
Yeah.
It was perfect. That he did exactly what he needed to do. He hit it and then he walked off.
Yeah,
Even
he's
wanted
got
more.
comical timing. Oh God, here comes another child. God help me.
Let's see. Who's on the show right now?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, see Uncle Eric and Vince.
Which, by the
Hello.
way, I will give you the laugh. Every single one of the kids on Saturday, Vince was like, "Why do you have Vince on your chest?" Because I was wearing the t-shirt. They're like,
That's right, everybody. You gotta go to prowrestlingtees.com/ohsnapvince. Get the latest shirt.
no. But all of a sudden, I hear Alex go. I hear Alex, Dad, Mom's got another guy on her chest.
Wait until
Dad.
yes, it was like the Cactus Jack, the Mick Foley, the Cactus Jack
By
shirt.
the police on it.
I am all over.
It was like an
I'm wanted by the comedy police.
Yep.
That's what it is. I'm wanted by the comedy police.
Okay, now let us actually talk wrestling.
All over.
Bye.
Good.
Wait,
I'm on board. I'm completely on board for your kids putting together their own wrestling podcast. Like I think that should be a thing. Like all of your kids should get together.
because half the people fired.
WWE kind of sucks right now because half the people are fired.
I mean, you're not wrong.
But this is the one that watches wrestling the least, and she even knows
Still
this.
knows, right?
Okay. So, do you know what I want? I want all the fired wrestlers to come back except for the people that need to be fired because they suck.
Ooh, we're
They're
gonna
gonna come back.
Can't argue with that.
I'm gonna, and if they don't come back, I'm gonna sue wrestling, and it deserves to be sued.
What?
That's wonderful.
Can we file a lawsuit on behalf of the fans? That's actually not a bad idea.
I've heard worse lawsuits.
You're going to personally, Vince McMahon? Good girl.
Yeah, they're going to have to make a sequel to fighting with my family, and it's going to be your family.
Yeah, it's just gonna literally fighting with my family. We'll just run the road because I think this was Tara saying hello. Speaking of LA Knight, hearing he has on tap to become Mr. Money in the Bank. I certainly hope so.
That would be great.
I'm for it.
Because the other suggestion, which we'll talk about later, the biggest dummy in the world, Sam Roberts from Sirius XM, suggested that Logan Paul win the Money in the Bank,
Oh, good God.
which is terrible. And then Tara also said if she wasn't broke, I would get a shirt. Don't worry, me too. I'm in the same boat.
Tara, your birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
I'll buy it for you.
Right there, you go. You can get her one of my shirts for her birthday. Very cool. Yeah, Money in the Bank's coming up. We've kind of got things in motion here. In terms of Monday Night Raw having this new interaction of the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. And then we've got Cody and Brock. We got people talking about the draft. All kinds of stuff. Teasing, but maybe not teasing the split of the Street Profits, because they had this whole thing about the whole backstage thing where they're like, oh, even tag teams can be split up. And they're like, we got to go talk to Adam Pearce. So are they trying to delay the inevitable?
I mean, look, the very, very first draft in 2002, they split up the Dudleys.
I
and
know.
The APA.
That was huge. That was to show the first draft split up tag teams to show you anybody can go anywhere in the draft for sure. Tara, if LA Knight wins, she is done with the WWE.
No, I think she's talking about Logan Paul.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, she was
Logan Paul.
not talking about.
All right, I was just we
LA
talked.
Knight, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Cool. Nope. You're on, and she's probably gonna throw a comment in like, no, you said the wrong one. I get it. Logan Paul wins, she's done. Absolutely. If LA Knight wins up, I think we're all on board here. She said thank you for sure. All right.
Just don't ruin my reputation that I'm a nice person. I like being known that I'm a bitch.
It was funny because she's like, oh, you've got another man on your chest. And I was like, have you seen her Sons of Anarchy shirts? She's got lots of guys on her chest sometimes.
I do have way too many Sons of Anarchy shirts. That's not even good. I think I have more Sons of Anarchy shirts than I do WWE shirts.
Wow. That's actually I mean, I have a lot of wrestling shirts, so I can just imagine in my head how many Sons of Anarchy shirts you must have.
I have about 30 wrestling shirts. I probably have about 50 Sons of Anarchy shirts.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I had custom made ones like with Gemma. Like I have a Jesus is just a guy that mows my lawn one. I have vulnerability is a liability. I have like every freaking Gemma quote. I have one that says Jesus Christ. It literally has all the characters and it says Jesus Christ all over it because it says how many times did they say Jesus Christ on the show. So
that's true.
So it has like literally like 200 different little spots of Jesus Christ all over it.
Oh my God, that's funny. So yeah, we've got and also not to not talk about AEW because AEW's I really like what they're doing right now. They got the BCC turned heel, Moxley's heel, Cesaro's heel. We've got the pillars, the young guys challenging MJF. So we've got a lot of.
And Jeff did not dance to the ring this time.
Yeah, he okay. And Jeff Hardy returned. I was hoping he wouldn't do the Swanton just for his own sake, because I was telling this story to somebody the other day back in like 2014, and this is almost 10 years ago. He would have to get like trash bags full of ice, like the ones that like the trash bags that you use in like a school, like those big bags, and we'd fill them with ice at wherever we were wrestling, and he'd take a big ace bandage and he'd wrap them around his back. And that was 9 years ago. So I can't imagine what he feels like doing that.
As long as he ain't going for a pill afterwards.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it's hard to. I want to be excited for Jeff coming back, but I also know that this happens, and we get excited for Jeff coming back, and then something happens. So I'm just really hoping that this time it sticks. I feel like it almost feels like recovery and wrestling aren't synonymous in Jeff Hardy's world, so maybe like it's not the best. But I mean, listen, it's his own decision to do it. Like I'm not gonna knock the guy if he chooses to do it, but like I hope he does it in a manner where he's not taking as many risky bumps, so he's not putting those any more wear and tear on his body and not causing himself any more pain that would then cause him to want to go.
Well, the difference could be that this time he actually went to rehab.
That's true. I don't know how many times he's actually,
because before he said no.
You're muted, Kat. Oh, you were talking to somebody behind the camera. I thought you were talking to me. Okay. That's funny. But yeah, Jeff being back is great. I'll just we'll run down Raw real quick. But Jeff concerned me a little bit, but now, I guess the gimmick is that they're going to have a match at the Hardy compound, which means it's going to be taped. It won't be in front of a crowd. And they can do all their goofy Brother Nero stuff, and he won't really have to do much, which is really what I'm looking at this point.
Probably a good way to utilize Jeff right now.
He's got to be
first,
right? And I mean, he's at the point where he should be doing the Legends thing when like Sergeant Slaughter would come out and put him in the Cobra Clutch, and that's it. That's maybe what Jeff should have done. At one point, Jeff should have developed the submission move so he wouldn't have to do all those high flying things, and then he can use it as like an alternate finisher. So yeah, we're talking about Raw. Just to back up a little, we had the kickoff of the show. The bloodline came down to the ring, well, except for the man himself, no Roman Reigns. We have their interaction with Judgment Day. Damian Priest has a little thing with Paul Heyman. They go back and forth. Yeah, so it's like it's a deal, but it's a tenuous deal between these factions.
I will admit, though, I might be wrong. I thought the flow of last night's Monday Night Raw was 100 times better than last week.
Yeah, and now there are rumors coming out that the draft is like the first Triple H draft and the beginning of the Triple H era. Like all the stuff supposedly all the stuff that he's been planning is supposed to come to fruition after the draft.
Right, but this didn't feel like a Vince changing things last minute show. Like if last night's show was the night after WrestleMania show, even though it wasn't a huge night after WrestleMania show, I think that still would have been better than what they gave us for the night after Mania.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I think what's happening is it's going to be one of those things where they're right. You know, Vince is an older guy. He's slowing down a little bit. Maybe he doesn't want to be out there all the time. So he's not going to be there, in gorilla position. But when he is, like when he traveled to LA for WrestleMania and he's like, well, damn it, I'm going to sit in the chair. So he sat in the chair. So I feel like every so often we're just going to have Vince McMahon is, Raw is in Madison Square Garden. Vince McMahon's backstage. Oh, Vince McMahon and his mustache are in gorilla position. Oh, Vince McMahon just ripped at the script.
You know what? Gomez Adams can be backstage at MSG because it's a fucking house show. So who cares?
The house, yeah, but you know what
I mean. If it's MSG, it's a house show. As long as he ain't doing the Barclays, who gives a shit?
But but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's going to be 99% of the time Vince is home. But the 1% of the time Vince is like out visiting for like SummerSlam or WrestleMania or something big, if he's traveling and then he's backstage, I think he gets the itch to go back in and tinker with things. And that's really like, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I get it. I just think that it's, like I said, like, I'm not in the weeds anymore, even though I love the weeds. Yeah, weeds are all over your fucking mustache, but that's okay. But like you haven't said worse, Vince.
I know, but it's just so funny because the only thing that people have talked about for a month and a half has been Vince McMahon's fucking pencil John Waters mustache.
Dude, okay? It's like if Doc Holliday and Gomez Adams had a kid.
Yeah. And then did you say
the hair, the everything, okay? Like, where's Cy Sperling with the Rogaine that he gave Howard Finkel? Because that's what's happening up there.
Like a young Vincent Price kind of thing.
Yeah, he's looking like, it's Vincent Price. It's like Clark Gable. I bet you that's
Ooh, that's a good one.
He went to the barber. He's like, make me look like Clark Gable, pal. That's the last movie. The last movie he saw was Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. Well, it's fitting. Why couldn't he be in the plantation?
Why couldn't he be on the plane? Oh, that's Casablanca. Never mind. That's the other film he saw. Those are the only two films.
That's Humphrey Bogart.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Those are the only two films you've seen is Gone with the Wind and Casablanca. Though I can guarantee you, maybe King Kong. Those are the last three films Vince McMahon saw.
And notice that the prevalent characters died in every single one.
He didn't know what Scarface was.
No, he might have known the Wizard of Oz. Do you think he knows the Wizard? Maybe that's why he likes
wrestling. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Exactly.
He should have watched that movie a little closer. Really get people to not pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
No, I'm hoping, like I said, this is hope. I doubt it's true. That when this whole purchase and merger and everything comes into full, fruition, because it's obviously not there yet. They said it was still going to take a couple of months.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I hope to God somebody gets through to him. I don't know who the hell. Maybe it's Linda. Who knows? Somebody needs to get through to him. Maybe Donald Trump can do it. Who knows?
It could be the guy who owns, because now remember, he's merging the UFC and WWE into one thing owned by Endeavor.
Dana White's been throwing some shade at wrestling too.
Well, yeah, of course he is. But Dana, so here's the problem. There's going to be one big guy. I forget what his name is, but there's one big guy.
Ari Emanuel.
Yeah. So he's there at the top. And then the next two down are Dana and Vince in these big positions. So Vince, who hasn't had a boss in his entire life, aside from his dad, is suddenly going to have a boss now. And he's going to listen to that guy. Is he going to listen to him because he's another old billionaire, or is he not going to listen to him and say, fuck you, pal, this is the way I've done business for 50 years?
And that's what I mean. That's going to be his downfall of what he needs to needs to figure out, and everybody needs to figure that out, because that's going to be the problem.
I don't think we're going to know until, I think it's one of those things that we won't know until the merger happens, and then the first issue pops up, like somebody a booking issue or something that something that would probably be minor. They just keep popping into frame. We have another.
Go ahead. You can say hi to Uncle
That's
Eric.
3 out of 4.
Hi,
Hi.
That is 3 out of 4. We almost got a bingo here.
Remember, that's who Mommy was on the T-shirt. That's Vince.
Hi, Vince.
How's it going? Oh my goodness.
Can I be with you?
That's so funny. So we had 3 of 4 Cats Kids dropping so far. We're honestly, when the last one comes home, she's going to be on. She'll be dropping too.
She came home. She's waiting for the food to be delivered. So as soon as she's done eating, she'll pop in.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
Hey guys, what are you guys doing?
We're talking about wrestling.
All right, is this one watch wrestling? How many?
This one, actually, believe it or not, she's 7 now. Who's your favorite?
My goodness.
John Cena.
Wow. Yeah, but wait a minute. So,
John Cena.
so Kat, did you just have
John Cena is my
like when we started the podcast, like when you came on the podcast,
She was the baby. Yeah, she was the little one that was in the diapers that would sit on my lap. Yeah, she was 1.5 when I started the podcast.
What are we doing here? Oh my god, I'm so old. I'm so old.
The first time Eric ever
Wiggy
came over,
was whipping.
the first time Eric ever came over my house and met her and everything, she was in a walker, and that was 2 months before I joined the podcast.
John Cena is my favorite.
My friends have this habit of handing me their babies. Like Kat did, Steve did as well with his daughter when his daughter just turned 10, by the way. So
I know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Happy birthday, Addie.
Yeah,
But
Eddie.
when she was, I don't know, 4 months old, Steve, I got there. Steve just didn't even say hello to me. He just handed her to me.
Here, you take it.
Yeah. Well, the funniest thing was I had been on
Carlos Martinez.
the podcast once. So Autumn knew, like when I came on just like for one time when Eric had me be a guest, and Autumn was like obsessed with. That's when she had Carmela Fun Party as my name on my messenger thing.
Right.
Eric came over my house one day, and Justin went to go pick Autumn and Rosie up from school. So only Gabby and Alex were home. So he's sitting on the couch, and Autumn comes in the door, and she looks and goes, "You're Eric. You were on the podcast. Wait, Mom, you know him in real life?" I said, "I've known him for over 20 years. She like totally on the couch, like freaking out. She goes,
Oh, that's
"Mom,
great.
wait, you know these people
like
in
I'm a
person?"
celebrity or
I
something.
said, "How the hell do you think I got on if I don't know somebody in person?" I'm like, "I've known Eric since middle school." She like freaked out. It was the hilarious thing ever. Like she literally
So
like
funny.
ran to him, was crying, hugging him,
Oh,
like she pulled what she did for Maven for Eric.
Oh my god, that's great though. That's great that she didn't even realize that you knew him.
Nope, she had
You knew
no
somebody-
clue.
yeah.
Not put 2 and 2 together that I've known Eric for like
Hey, look, I love being thought of as some kind of celebrity. That's fine with me.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Can I tell Uncle Eric something?
Can you tell Uncle Eric something? Okay, real quick. What do you want to tell Uncle Eric?
Hey, Uncle Eric.
Yes.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's adorable.
You can tell them your joke real quick. You can tell them the turtle
Yeah,
joke.
never-
What does
never
the snail
let
say?
him roll.
What does the snail say on the turtle's back?
What?
Woohoo! Look, my team. I have 2 rabbit team.
Okay, go quick.
Oh, God.
What does a snail
my
say on a turtle's back? Ooh. Someone watched too much Finding Nemo.
That's funny. So yeah, we're in the middle of the show here. I guess one of the segments that was probably most notable, because there were a couple, is Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar. Cody's supposedly not medically cleared, whatever. He wants to fight Brock. There's a brawl. They break it up. There's a brawl. They break it up. Typical.
Has Brock said anything yet about why he did what he did?
No.
Or does it even
Bro-
matter? I don't know. I guess it doesn't.
If Brock ends up joining the Bloodline, that would be a crazy turn of events.
like
I think
an
that's
associate of the bloodline.
It would be a very unexpected, but then it would be a way to get Brock back in the title picture, unfortunately. Because think about it, he wouldn't just be Roman's sidekick and beat up
Brock
Cody Rhodes for
Uso.
no reason. Exactly. Yes, I mean they would probably do something like that, where they would make him the next like
You know,
honorary Uso or whatever.
I'll tell you what, Bloodlines is awesome, and it's gonna be around for a bit, especially with newer family members coming in. But it's not gonna last forever. However, I feel like if you put Roman and Brock on the same page as a team for just a little bit, they'd dominate for like forever.
Oh,
Really.
definitely. It would be like the 2-man power trip. It would just be,
The
two legit main
Heyman
eventers.
guys,
Yeah, and Paul Heyman guys. I'm going to skip around a little bit because aside from Brock, which, this is an interesting thing because everybody's talking about it. The even Dustin Rhodes in an interview was like, oh, well, Cody's got to earn it and he's got to get beaten down and all this stuff beforehand. And I guess the question I posed to you is the same one we kind of discussed last week as we get closer to this pay-per-view. Now that this match is official, is Cody Rhodes beating Brock Lesnar? We're having the same conversation we had about Roman Reigns. Is Cody Rhodes beating Roman fucking Reigns? Is Cody Rhodes beating Brock fucking Lesnar? Is he going to get a 3 count on a Brock Lesnar?
I don't know if he's going to get a 3 count as much as he may get a DQ or something.
I see it going the way it went for John Cena when Brock first came back, where Cena got the win, but Brock still beat the shit out of him, and Cena could barely walk, even though he got the
and I disagree with that one too. Cena should have never won that match. That was
Absolutely.
No, I definitely agree with that, but at least
But I think momentum-wise, if this is the new story that they're going with Cody Rhodes, that they have to build him up as this underdog.
Right.
He cannot lose every single match he's had since the Royal Rumble. Because he really does not have a great track record for 2023.
No, but I mean, last year he was undefeated, technically.
Correct. But
it's like, how do you...
Besides us, who follows the stats that intently.
Right.
But it's like, how do you manage like a hard times storyline, but he's still got to get some wins along the way.
Correct.
It's hard to navigate that. But here's I just thought of this. What how amazing would it be if goes through the hard times thing, whole year goes by and he ends up back in the same place, wins the main event next year, and the night before or whatever, his brother gets in the Hall of Fame. How cool would that be?
Yeah, I mean that would be cool.
Dustin said he's retiring from as a wrestler, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Right.
And then FTR said supposedly at the end of their 4-year deal they just signed that they're retiring, but you know how that works in wrestling. Nobody ever really retires the first time.
Nobody
Dustin
ever really retires.
Right. Yeah, no. And that's the thing. Dustin would retire from in-ring competition, but he still has a school. He's still got a training school in Texas. He's still got, his AEW backstage duties. All that
I don't know
stuff.
how long his contract, his actual contract is.
Yeah. Well, he says that he likes AEW because it affords him to do the things that he wants to do outside, as well as then just being able to, still be involved in wrestling.
And can we talk about the fact that he's a grandfather now, that
Yes,
Dakota had a baby?
That's crazy.
I remember seeing Dakota as a little
mini Marlena,
little kid at a house show back in the 90s.
I know. Same way, yeah.
Let's put that in a whole sentence. Terry Runnels is a grandmother. Marlena is a grandmother. That's when you know you've reached old.
Gilf.
We're talking about MTV in the chat. Kurt Loder is 77.
Oh my
Jesus
goodness.
Christ.
Kurt Loder? Did you say Kurt Loder's 77?
Yes.
He's going to be 80?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There was a whole big birthday thing about him the other day with that everything that,
But you know what's funny though? 40 years ago, Moolah was old then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's that thing I was telling you because you were talking about Brodus Clay on Fox and everything.
Yeah.
On that panel with them, okay, this is how old we're getting. Fucking Kennedy's on that panel.
Kennedy from MTV.
Yes.
The VJ.
Kennedy the VJ is on a Fox News panel
She still got the glasses?
Brodus Clay. Yes.
Oh,
and she still looks like fucking Lisa Loeb.
Wow.
That's right.
Good for Kennedy for staying
Kennedy.
young looking.
Yeah, let's just make sure we're talking about that Kennedy,
Right.
not Mr.
Yeah, not Mr. Kennedy. And then Tyrus is carrying around that NWA belt.
I give up.
Alex may have left the podcast, but he never truly leaves.
And then I was saying, you guys mentioned Forgotten Son, not Sons of Anarchy, rather. Before
I was going to say nobody mentions the Forgotten
Forgotten
Sons.
Sons, and I'm like, the most forgotten of the Forgotten Sons.
Yeah, we
is now
forgot
the
all those.
Impact World Champion. Didn't even know that it was him because I didn't know the name Steve Macklin.
Steve
and I was
Macklin,
like,
yeah.
oh, okay, it's Steve Cutler, And then I didn't know he was together with Deanna, who also won the women's title. And so, but then he got confronted by Nick Aldis at the end. So that's
Impact has some stuff happening because Josh Alexander was their champion. Josh Alexander had to relinquish the title due to injury, so they had a pay-per-view. I believe it was Rebellion, maybe, and it was, or maybe it was the one after Rebellion, but it was Kushida against Steve Macklin, the former Steve Cutler, former Forgotten Son, former NXT, whatever. Steve Macklin won; he's the new world champion. But yeah, the interesting rub of that is free agent Nick Aldis made his debut for Impact, which just about makes sense because I don't know if WWE would want the guy at this. They're focused on much younger. They got those two twin girls from the University of Miami that played volleyball to sign deals. They don't give a shit about Nick Aldis. You know what I mean? That's not who they're looking at. And then AEW. Look, I don't dislike Nick Aldis. I just don't see where Nick Aldis would fit in to anything in AEW at all. Like just at all.
Yeah, it feels like Impact's probably the best place for him.
And it's one of those things where if he does good in Impact, he can get noticed, and not and move up because
he can work his way up. Yeah,
because Cross did the same thing. Cross spent a little while in Impact and then immediately got noticed by NXT as soon as he started showing up on like MLW.
And it also makes sense because Aldis, when he was Magnus, was a former TNA champion back then, was part of the Main Event Mafia, the later version at the time, and the British Invasion, and he's been.
And they can bring they can bring all that up and
the
incorporate
shit he did in NWA with what the hell is his name, Tim Storm, was phenomenal.
Yeah,
those early days of the new NWA were great. And then Tyrus became the champion. And actually it was before that because then what's his face? Trevor Murdoch. And no knock on Trevor Murdoch, but I mean Trevor Murdoch was the NW. When you think of the NWA World's Champion, your Harley Races and your Dusty Rhodeses and your Ricky the Dragon Steamboats, and you put Trevor Murdoch and Tyrus up there? Are you kidding me?
See, that's why I like Nick Aldis, because he carried himself like a Nick Bockwinkel, like a Ric Flair.
That's the best way I've heard him described. He's very Bockwinkel-esque. I couldn't put my finger on it before. That perfectly describes it. Because he wasn't exactly the flashiest guy, but he's a big guy. He wrestles pretty well. He's not, he doesn't have a huge personality, but he does finally. He wears the suits. He looks good. He's got the accent. There's a lot to like about him. I think maybe you put the guy with a manager and if you put him in WWE, you'd have to have him with Paul Heyman or somebody like that. So if in Impact, and I know he's going to be a main eventer, but still.
Guys, I apologize. I just got an important phone call that I need to take. I'm going to hopefully jump back on, but I didn't want to just sign off. I will give you guys a call back.
All right, Kat. Go take care of business there. We'll talk to you soon.
BCB.
Yeah. That looked important. Yeah, so I don't understand this whole modern NWA thing. And I know Tyrus is kind of a controversial guy because of his association with Fox News and his association with Gutfeld and all that stuff. And then William Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkin. He said he owns it, but he was saying something about, a lot of the heat for Tyrus is political. It's just because they don't agree with his political opinions. It's not really wrestling wise. And it's like, no, listen, I can put my political opinions aside plenty to judge somebody on other merits. Tyrus, aside from being a big guy who is currently on cable TV, I don't see it. He gets winded very easily. He was never the world's most technical wrestler anyway. I don't know if he cuts a promo that is compelling in a wrestling sense.
Even as a monster, I just don't see NWA World Champion in him.
Yeah.
Even if you could manage to forget the whole Funkasaurus deal, you know.
Right, for sure. But yeah, even if you could, I just think he's one of those guys that almost spent too much time. It's like Trevor Murdoch spent too much time in the mid card. Then you put a world title on him. You're like, what are we doing? Steve has joined us.
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Not much. Yeah, we can hear you okay. We've just
Okay.
been kind of talking, kind of bouncing around. We talked a little bit about Monday Night Raw. We talked about Brock and Cody. We talked about the Judgment Day and the Usos. The one thing we haven't talked about the NWA a little bit. We talked about all kinds of stuff. The one thing we haven't
You covered a lot of shit in half an hour.
We've just been bouncing around. We were running down Raw. The one thing I didn't get to on Raw was Trish's promo. Becky Lynch. Yeah, Becky Lynch has like a broken foot or a sprained foot or something that she needs to rest. So she took a break. She wasn't coming out tonight. So
so that's legit. Like
that's
legit. Why she wasn't there, because when there were rumors about Rollins walking out, and then Becky blacked out her Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And then put Rebecca Quinn, and then said, "I'm not coming tonight," or some shit. So of course that raised a lot of shit, is she leaving now too, kind of thing. So I'm not that I'm glad she's injured, but I'm glad that
it's better
that's
than the
not
other
the
option,
case.
for sure.
I mean, but you said it's a sprained or broken ankle.
Well, it's like let me see if I can get this Becky Lynch.
Because if that's a broken ankle, like, she's out months.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how, because a lot of people say broken ankle in a manner that's not really a broken ankle is like a fracture. When most people talk about a broken ankle, there's a ligament in there that can tear or rupture or whatever. Let me see if I can get this. Fightful update on Becky Lynch. This comes from Fightful yesterday. Becky Lynch legitimately is not set to be at the April 17th episode of Raw. Fightful was told she was originally scheduled to be of Raw as of last Monday, but WWE sources indicate there are no issues to their knowledge between Becky and WWE. She's been dealing with a minor foot injury, which has been exacerbated recently. So they just said minor foot injury, which could be a pulled tendon. It could be a ligament. It doesn't necessarily, they didn't say break, so it's not a broken bone, but it could be like, a ligament is just as bad. You need time to heal on that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when they're obviously trying to do Becky versus Trish at SummerSlam. So hopefully it's not something that's going to keep her out of action for more than a couple months.
Right.
You know what I mean? If she misses Backlash, not the end of the world. That's a match that should be more in SummerSlam anyway, in my opinion.
And then and one other note is Becky Lynch's 3-year contract currently expires in June of 2024.
All right, so she's got a little more than a year left on her contract.
Yeah. And then who knows if they put in any, I don't think they put in any time for your maternity, because that's not an injury, so they can't tack on time. Unless she had an injury or has some injury that keeps her out for an extended time that pushes her beyond that renewal date.
I can't see her wanting to leave anyway, so I'm sure it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it was noted that Becky Lynch has already also made connections within Hollywood and was slated to appear at the end of a Marvel movie at one point. She was supposed to be in the end credit scene of the Eternals, and she was supposed to be one of the Eternals.
I don't think anything could save that movie.
No, so it was probably better that she wasn't in it. And if they go at it again and they want to add the Eternals to some other Marvel movie, like if they're doing the Kree thing or whatever they're doing, then they can still bring Becky's character in. I forget exactly who it was. Shamrock. There's a Marvel character called Shamrock that basically looks like Becky Lynch, so I think they could just probably throw her in there real easy. But I don't know, man. I aside from the physicality of wrestling and being able to bump and all that stuff, like and the wear and tear that it puts on your body, I mean, God, what the move, I guess it's such a big money move to go from wrestling to TV and movies that you almost have to take it. But at the same time, like, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's one of the things, like, you enjoy your job and somebody offers you a new job and it pays more. Do you take it to take the money? And do you like it as much? Do you not like it as much? It's a weird position to be in.
Or you try to do both.
Or you try and that's what The Rock did when he first started out. He's like, oh no, I can do this and movies. And they're like, no. Like Hollywood was like, no, you got to pick one, buddy. And
Well,
I mean,
because they didn't want to take the chance of
yeah, you don't
him
want to
getting hurt,
exactly.
and then But if I'm The Rock, I'm such a big name that I say, well, if you want me, then you're gonna have to fucking deal with the fact that I'm also a pro wrestler.
Right. And maybe here's the thing: he didn't have that kind of pull when he first started in Hollywood. He was doing like the
Right.
rundown and stuff like that. So now he has that pull, but he doesn't want to be doing wrestling, or else he'd be there, man. He has The Rock. If anybody in the world could move mountains and make a WrestleMania appearance happen or a SummerSlam appearance happen, it's The Rock. He has enough pull on whatever movie he's on to say, hey, we're going to take a break, or hey, we're pushing it back, or just tell his agent, I'm not doing a movie right now because I'm doing SummerSlam. But so far that hasn't materialized. But Becky didn't appear, there was, again, people raised the red flag for that, but it was really just, she's taking some time off, minor foot injury, whatever that may be. Trish comes out, cuts a promo.
How do we feel about the promo?
I think it was, Trish. First of all, Trish was never really known for a good promo, but
true.
I think
it wasn't bad.
I think last night might be up there in terms of Trish promos.
It was definitely not a bad promo.
We haven't seen bitch Trish in a long time.
Right, exactly, and we hope to never
Trish,
never see that again.
Yeah, it was a solid promo. She said a lot of shit that makes total sense.
That's
to bring
the beauty of a good heel too.
To bring it to a reality,
exactly.
Point. Because anytime you bring real life situations into a promo, it's always better.
You get the oohs and ahs from the audience, yeah.
And that's what she basically did. She related it to the fact that Becky Lynch wouldn't be anybody if it wasn't for me. She wouldn't have been in the main event of WrestleMania if it wasn't for me. And I loved, what was the line towards the end? She's like, I'm not your eye candy. I'm not your this, that. I'm just the best ever, or something like that. But it was a great promo.
Yeah. And it's hard to argue with some of those points.
Yeah. Especially if you think of where she came from, because she was the shits when she first started and then became one of the best in that era.
Yeah. And you know what's phenomenal about Trish, too, is that she became very good very quickly from crap.
But now here's the question. Do we honestly think that she's a better wrestler than Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, Becky? Because I don't think so.
No.
I think she was the best
star power
in her era.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was in the top 5 best wrestlers, women wrestlers ever.
Well,
I don't think I could put her in that category.
You have to include the Attitude Era.
Ring talent or overall?
What?
Are we talking ring talent or overall? Because overall,
I think as a total package, I don't think she's better than those 5. To be honest, I like Trish. Don't get me wrong, and I think she was one of the best in her time. But if you look at the actual in-ring work of the women that I mentioned now, they could run circles around Trish in the ring.
Oh yeah, well, of course.
Yeah.
So,
but you almost have to look at the Attitude Era like it was its own thing, especially for the women's division, because it just wasn't there yet. And Trish, yes, she was the best of a bad bunch. And I don't want to say bad bunch because like Jacqueline was in there, she could wrestle. Jazz was in there towards the end, she could wrestle. Victoria was pretty good. Lita was good. Victoria's great. Lita's great. Fucking what's her name there? Ivory. Yes, that was exactly Molly Holly. So they had good wrestling. They had good female wrestlers. They just booked them like dog shit. But when you compare, again, we're going on. I was there. I saw the reactions. They were over. Then when you start to look at it in the rear view, you're like, yeah, these modern wrestlers obviously are going to be way better. But there's something to be said about being the best of your class, whatever.
Well, what I would say that I truly believe what she said was, if it wasn't for her, and I would throw Lita in that mix also, if it wasn't for the two of them, then I think she's right. I don't think the women's division would be what it is today. I do think that they opened up the door. I mean, you're talking about two women that main evented a Monday Night Raw, which was unheard of then. So I do give that credit where it's due. You know, the women of today wouldn't be without Trish and Lita for sure.
Yeah, but I also think there's like a there was a transition during it was that match. It was the WrestleMania where it was Trish and Mickey. And that was the match that went from, okay, this is Trish's generation of this thing to this is Mickey's generation. And I know the generation that followed with Mickey and Michelle McCool and Layla and all that was sometimes not in the Bellas, etc., was not regarded as the best. But that was when, you know, right before the Divas Revolution, there were noticeable eras. Right after the Attitude Era ended, and like right around when Mickie James won that title from Trish, there was like a transition from the Attitude Era way of booking the women into the more modern way that still had a lot of seasoning from the Attitude Era. But you could see that the new class of these, they were trying, like Mickie James was not like a Hawaiian Tropics model first. She was a wrestler first. So they started having more wrestler first women's wrestlers instead of model first, and then you train them to be a wrestler. And you can see
Natalia.
Right, Natalia's another one. You know, there was a lot of them that came up, and then once the Performance Center fully started, you know, it was FCW and all that, but once it really started becoming NXT and started becoming the Performance Center and you saw the real women's revolution of like, you know, Paige and AJ and the horsewomen and all that, that's when everything really kicked in. But, you know, you had to. There was a reason Lita was women's champion. There's a reason Trish was women's champion. They could hold it down. You know, they were the best athletes and wrestlers of their time. And Lita had that neck injury that kind of derailed things for her in a big way. But
yeah,
and even now you can see it affecting her. But Trish, it's just trying to think of what Trish, because Trish coming back now looks good, wrestles good, in good shape. What about that point in time where Trish was like, yeah, I'm retired? If she kept going during that point, I think she'd be great. No, she's not great, but I think she'd be even better than she is now if she didn't take all that time off.
I could see that. I mean, you know, she definitely lost a step or two, but
I mean, she's still
holding it down. I mean, you know, she when she teamed up with Becky, I mean, she wrestled the majority of that match and she did a great job.
Right. And I think that was the point of that one too, was that the point of that match was right for Trish both in character to further the story, but also in real life to show people, hey, I still got this. So you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry about the singles match because if I got it in the tag, I got it in the singles. And I think she showed she can still go. This is a great way, you know, if Becky's not involved in the women's title, because I think most fans want Becky to be involved in the women's title or think she should be involved in the women's title picture. And if she's not going to be, this is the best way to keep her out of it. It's with a big star. It's with a returning person. It's the same thing with Cody, because you don't want it, like, you can't have Cody just be constantly doing stuff with the bloodline until he wrestles Roman again. So they broke him off. They split him up into this Brock Lesnar thing. And Brock's another guy, very similar to Trish, part-timer, coming back, doesn't always wrestle all the time. But this is a feud that you can use to occupy your time.
Well, now here's a question.
Until where you need to go.
Before it's time for Trish to basically wrap it up again, does she get another world title run?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I thought just based on them not changing the title at WrestleMania and giving it to Asuka, I'm going to say no. Like, this is a weird way to put it, but I don't think we're going to see any movement on any of the titles until this merger is complete. I think we're status quo until the merger is complete, and then whoever is in charge of booking is in charge of booking. Or maybe it's until the draft. Maybe the draft changes things up. But I don't know. I think there's got to be a lot of. You have to be consistent. And if you're in the middle of sale, you have to be consistent. Even like right now, they said there was a report there was a hiring freeze, and there was like, no, there's not actually hiring freeze, and like, okay, there's not officially on the books a hiring freeze. But I bet you if you're applying for a job right now, you're not getting a call back or an interview. They're waiting until they know who's going to own them, what kind of budget they're working with, all this other shit. They're not.
Well, I think we already know who's going to own them. This Endeavor thing is a done deal.
But you know what I mean by own? But I mean just like how we won't know how that new owner works with Vince or works with Triple H or until the ink is dry. You know what I mean? We won't actually know how the corporate structure communicates until all of that's already done. And then, you know, we were talking about this earlier. What if does Vince McMahon, you know, does he always agree with this new owner? Does you know, does he butt heads with the new owner? Does the new owner make suggestions, or does the new owner say, Vince McMahon, even though you want to do X, Y, and Z, you have, like, if they get in an argument, does the guy defer to Vince, or does the guy say, you know what, I'm the owner, I outrank you. You haven't had a boss in 50 years, but guess what? I'm the boss now, and this is the way it goes. Like, there's a lot of question marks about what's going to actually happen with the structure of the company once the merger happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. It's going to be very interesting to see where it all goes.
But it'll be, you know, that's going to be down the line. Go ahead, Eric.
Here's a question. Do we ever see Conor McGregor in a WWE ring?
I doubt it.
I mean, it's more likely now than it ever was.
Not if he has Dana White.
Yeah. If anything,
but again,
totally against any. Dana White is against anything merging or, like, you know,
but he doesn't have the
in
like
WWE.
And he does, you know.
I think he'll have a say in it. I don't think he'd have a majority say, but he'll have a say in it.
Right, he'll have a say, and I think he probably won't appear. But the guy, the guy who brokered the sale, you know, when they were first putting out all this news about the sale was done after WrestleMania weekend, this, that, and the other thing, the quotes were like, these are two combat sports brands that we can integrate and work together and this, that, and the other thing. And if the new owner is saying that, it doesn't really matter what Dana's saying. He can disagree or pull guys back or whatever. But I think there's definitely going to be UFC involvement in WWE. There's going to be WWE involvement in the UFC. And hell, I think there's probably an opportunity for guys who train at the UFC. There's like a UFC gym, and there's like a UFC training funnel. And there's the WWE Performance Center. I think there are some people in wrestling who are probably better suited for the UFC. And there are probably some people in UFC who are better suited for WWE because they've got good promos and this, that, and the other thing. But their win-loss record in legitimate fights may not be that good. But they can be somebody that could cut a promo and get people mad. So if you could teach them how to wrestle, like Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen was a great MMA fighter, but he talked people into the building. He talked people into wanting to see his fights. He riled people up. He riled the other fighters up. He got in their heads. So if they can take guys like that and transfer them over to the WWE, look at what you can tell the guy. Hey, you're not really getting punched in the head. You're not really getting your arm broken or whatever, unless you like slip and fall and have a bad accident. But that can happen anywhere. It can happen in your bathroom. You might be wrestling more as a wrestler versus a UFC fighter, but I think it's safer. I think you're a lot safer wrestling than you are in the UFC. You're putting your life in your hands every fucking time you go in that cage. So yeah, maybe it could be an interesting thing, man. I think this is for all of the hand wringing that each side, because like UFC fans, we've discovered over the years there's not as much crossover between wrestling and MMA fans as the UFC or the WWE would like. Because anytime there's crossover, the WWE fans are like, who's this guy? We don't know him, blah, blah, blah. Typical when any celebrity comes in, the WWE fans don't know him. But then you've got the other side. When the WWE stuff or the wrestling stuff crosses over to the UFC, oh, it's that fake shit. We don't want the fake guys. These are real fighters, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like the two sides don't really get along fan base-wise. So it's going to be interesting to see how everybody plays along once this is a big company.
Completely legitimate and everything UFC is, and MMA in general. You can't tell me that they weren't influenced by wrestling.
Oh, 100%.
Come on. The fucking entrance music, promos and shit like that. I mean, look, old school boxing. Muhammad Ali said that he based his entire persona on Gorgeous George.
Right. And that was, and it used to just be boxing was a journeyman thing. You just traveled to a town and you boxed, and you traveled to a town and you boxed, and that's it. He was like a legit celebrity, and the way it was not just because he talked, it was because he could back it up in the ring. But the talking was what drew the people in. And it's very, it's one of those cyclical things where Gorgeous George can influence Muhammad Ali, but like Muhammad Ali influenced Dusty Rhodes, and then Dusty Rhodes influenced, or no, it's one of those things where like all these little connections to back and forth. Even Muhammad Ali against Inoki, that influenced modern MMA. What if we had a Taekwondo guy against a jiu-jitsu guy or whatever? So the idea came from pro wrestling exhibitions. This whole everything goes back and forth, because you saw WWE has the entrances and the videos and all that, and then the UFC stepped up the production value. They had that cool camera that makes the guy really sharp and everything else really blurry in the background, the laser lights, the video screens, all that. There was like an arms race every time WWE would do things. UFC would like upgrade their entrance lights and music and stuff. And the next thing you know, WWE would do it and it would go bigger. Now both these companies have like gigantic production things just for the entrances. They're just not even for the wrestling, just for the entrances. They have all of this technology and all of this money invested. So like they have to realize at one point they all come from the same roots, whether it's legitimate competition or whether it's scripted like wrestling. It all comes from the same base. Because when you were in the county fairs, there were legitimate fights. But then guess what? At one point, they were like, man, I'm sick of working these legitimate fights and getting hurt. Why don't we just go out there and play fight? And it's the same thing, and the audience will never know. And that's how wrestling is born. So like, they just have to realize they all come from the same. Piper. Right. Regal was fighting for legitimately at the Blackpool.
Piper was a little, Piper was a fucking teenager,
Right. So,
shit like that.
And he was a boxer and all that. Yeah. I think they have to realize that they all kind of come from the same background.
That's what I'm ultimately getting at, is that I wish people would have a little more respect.
But they're not.
For wrestling. It's story of our lives. I understand.
That's unfortunately how that happens.
I want to, but to go back to Eric's original question, when it comes to McGregor, I think he's too much of a hothead. I don't think he would mesh well, and I don't think he would be able to do it the WWE way, so to speak. Like, unless I think it would get too real.
Logan Paul or something.
Well, it could be.
Well, no, even still though. I mean, McGregor's a hothead, and if he decides to make it a real fight,
right,
it doesn't matter who it is. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
well, I think
unless he's in the ring with Lesnar, then that's another ballgame. Because Lesnar would probably say, "All right, bring it on, bitch, and I'll fucking kill you." You know what I mean? But
I just have this picture of like he could do. It would be almost be like if they brought him in, it would be a one-off, like they did with like Lonzo Ball and his dad, and you're like, oh my god, this segment's a disaster. I have a feeling if Conor McGregor came in, regardless of who he was in the ring with, the segment would go like that. It would be horrific. It would be a mess. It might be an entertaining mess, but it would be a mess. And he'd swear. They'd have to dump out. They'd have to like mute the audio and all. You know what I mean? He'd be a wild man. Especially knowing that it's fake, because then he can go in and go like, well, you're the fake ones, I'm the real one. And he just goes, like you said, if he starts swinging on somebody, unless he is little, so you could have a bigger guy in there like Brock, you're right. But yeah, if he starts swinging, what do you do?
Well, right. That's what I'm saying. So I think for somebody like him, he's too much of a liability.
Could be. Let me just see. Is there anything else from Raw? Well, since you jumped in late, we did talk a little bit about Judgment Day and the Bloodline. We talked about Cody, Cody and Brock getting set up and made official.
Let me tell you, in terms of the Brock Cody situation, I got to tell you, I love the way that played out on Raw. Cody fighting through 20 fucking security guards and still doesn't get to touch Lesnar, and Lesnar just mocking him. And like, I almost like the fact that they didn't give the fans what they wanted in terms of them touching.
Oh, you can't.
They just teased it. They made you want more. The promo was great with Cody. Even the whole thing with what's his face coming out and begging and pleading with him, Pierce. I think it was a great. I think that segment hit on every level. And to watch Cody go through 20 plus security guards, I thought it was well done. I also noticed with Brock, it was more of a darker Brock than what we're used to.
Oh, for sure.
It almost looked like the coat that he was wearing. It almost looked like like a butcher in a meat shop. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like a dust, like an apron that he would. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's him though,
So,
you know.
well, right. You know, when he's home, you know, that's what he's doing. So I thought that was great. And
So
it's getting me excited for the match.
What's your opinion on the actual finish of the match? Do we get a 3 count? Do we get a DQ? Does Cody go over clean? What are you thinking?
You know, I don't know. You know, if you would have asked me we talked about it last week, and I kind of was like, how does Cody lose?
Right.
But I almost feel like maybe he does have to lose and just really take a beating from Brock, and then go over on SummerSlam. Now,
Okay.
whether or not him and Brock is going to continue through SummerSlam, that I don't know, because I've also heard rumors that they might actually pull the trigger on Brock Gunther at SummerSlam, which I would totally be on board for. But then what do you do with Cody?
Yeah.
So we have to see. But I don't know. I feel like part of me can see him losing because it's WrestleMania Backlash. Like,
right.
does the pay-per-view really mean anything? Like, if you compare it to a SummerSlam, it means nothing.
Right.
SummerSlam's one of the big 4. So I feel like it's more important for Cody to win that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
We were talking about it with Cat, man. It still sounds weird on my ear and my brain. The sound that goes, Cody Rhodes beat Brock Lesnar. That doesn't seem like a real thing anybody should say. And that's not a knock on Cody. It just seems like Brock Lesnar is such a hard guy to beat that, like, Finn Balor couldn't beat him. And I know he's a small, but like AJ Styles couldn't beat him. Kofi Kingston couldn't beat him.
Yeah, but you know what? But then on the flip side, you could say, but Seth Rollins did. And we said the same thing about Rollins, that there's no way Rollins is going to go over on Brock, and he did.
Right. Well, he had to hit him in the nuts. He had to give him a low blow.
Well, listen, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you get the job done, right? I mean, you know.
Oh, I know.
I mean, if anything, it gives more legitimacy to Brock. You know, oh, wow.
That he had to
hit him in the nuts to win the match. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It's a tough one to call. It really is.
Yeah, my whole thing is that it's hard to call because, especially if you want to do this hard times thing, right? You know, you like, how does he win, but how does he lose? You don't know what to do. It's kind of
right.
Well, when you're talking hard times, him losing isn't so unbelievable because he's going through the hard times. But
first, you know,
right, but it's how does he lose?
Mountain.
Right. I mean, like, I could see it ending with like a knockout where Lesnar just destroys him and you know, it's a 10 count, you know, through the announce table or something, or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I mean, it could just be they fight and whatever. It rolls out of the ring, and either they go through the table. Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. They go through the arena. Maybe they get counted out, double count out, double DQ, and then you go back for something a little more definitive, like a cage match or a 2 out of 3 falls or a falls count anywhere. Because that was the trick they did with John Cena a lot. They do like a last man standing match, and John Cena would always win with some shortcut, like tying somebody's legs to the turnbuckle so they couldn't get up. So he won, but they didn't really lose anything because it was kind of a cheap win. But at this point, does Cody, like, it's such a weird spot because Cody needs a win, but they keep putting him up against these guys that really shouldn't be losing. Like, I just don't know what they're. Right. Like, what's their plan? Put this guy up against fucking LA Knight. Who cares? Let him hit the crossroads on him 16 times. It's like, but you know what I mean? Like, you're putting him up against Brock Lesnar. Like, what the fuck are we doing? It would almost seem if the guy wasn't treated so well, this was a burial. You know what I mean? Like, like he's in the main event and he's being involved in all these segments, but then is he ultimately just losing? Is this the passion of the Cody? You know?
Well, or that just tells you more that he is going to win.
Right. Is this just a big misdirect and he wins the big one down the line? SummerSlam, next WrestleMania. That's already people are talking about way in the future. Yeah. WrestleMania 40 with Cody. We're talking about, well, we mentioned LA Knight maybe being Mr. Money in the Bank by the end of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
You know what? It would make me feel a hell of a lot better for how they've treated LA Knight if all along the setup was that he was going to be Mr. Money in the Bank, because I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, and I would.
I am so over on LA Knight. It's ridiculous. I fucking love the guy. And I think he can really.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's such a heel and he's so over tells you something. You know, so I'm a big LA Knight advocate for sure. So him winning Money in the Bank, I'm all for it.
Are there better options? Are there other options?
You know what? As of right now, the only other option I could see that I'd be okay with, who I'm getting very high on, is Bronson Reed.
Okay, yeah, they're building him up too. Yes.
I mean, this match with him and Bobby Lashley is going to be awesome. And I hope Bronson goes over, quite honestly. The guy is an animal. Could you imagine that fucking guy climbing a ladder and winning Money in the Bank? Like,
see, that's another one.
He's been in some of those NXT ladder matches.
Yes, yeah, and he's done good in them. But what I'm saying,
he did a great job.
Oh yeah, but that's another guy. You put Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley, who was supposed to have like a big WrestleMania match and all this other stuff, has really had nothing since the Royal Rumble. And you put him against Bronson Reed, who obviously coming back needs the win. But it's like there's an argument that Bobby Lashley needs a win right now. Both of those guys need wins, and they're going to meet at a pay-per-view. So I don't like. It's weird. It's just weird.
I got to be honest. I'm getting bored with Bobby Lashley. I can give a fuck less if he wins or loses at this point. I'd rather see a guy like Bronson Reed, who was let go when he shouldn't have been, and they gave him the green light to come back, and he's been a beast. And I like the booking so far. So
right.
I kind of think it's more important right now for Bronson to go over than Bobby Lashley.
Oh, and I think you're right, but that's just that's such the WWE cycle of like, we're pushing this guy, we'll get him some wins, and then when he has to win the big one, he loses. So like the perception is the guy's a loser and can't get it done, even though he's like technically a former 2-time world champion or whatever. You look at him and go, oh, Bobby Lashley, that guy's a fucking loser. He loses every big match. So, and then they just move on. They go, ooh, Bronson Reed. It's like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. You're like, it's the new guy. And you're like, ooh, this guy needs to win now.
But it's like Seth Rollins. Like, you can keep throwing all these losses at him, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because he's still Seth freaking Rollins, and he can be thrown into the main event just like that.
I know, but that stinks. Like, he should still like.
No, it does. I know. Well, it's like the whole Bray Wyatt thing. Bray Wyatt lost a lot more than
he lost. He won a lot of small, meaningless things, and then when it came to like, he would win at a Backlash, to use that example, but he wouldn't win at a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. Tara, I just want to get this, see what you're saying here. You don't like what they're doing with Who's gimmick, and we talked about a lot of people. I know it was Bronson, Bobby Lashley, a couple other people. So let us know as we're closing out here, because we're actually past the top of the hour right now. We gave you a little extra time because Steve popped on, but we'll see who it was that you said you didn't like what they're doing with this gimmick. Could be Bronson's, or it could be Bobby's. Not really sure, but anyway, while that comment rolls in, excuse me, I ate a thing of ramen, like instant ramen. You put the boiling water in it, and I've had the friggin' burps ever since I ate it.
That shit's so bad for you.
It is, but it tastes good. All right, so yeah, Tara doesn't like what they're doing with Bronson Reed's gimmick, which I don't even know what.
How is that possible?
What is?
I don't know what his gimmick is though. Like, what's his gimmick? Like,
just a fucking beast. He's just a badass. Like, how could that be a bad gimmick?
See,
I don't agree with.
Like, he's like a modern day Bam Bam Bigelow in a way.
Yeah,
if they lean into that,
comparison.
That sounds like a good way to lean into it. If he's just generic, I'm a big guy. But yeah, I can see. I see what Tara's saying though. There's not necessarily of being over or annoyed or not liking it, but the idea of a big guy like him, and you're just selling him as, well, he's a big guy. It's like, oh, all right. Well, we need a little bit more. And I'm not saying make him the Funkasaurus, because something like that's going too far in the other direction.
But look at what he did in the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big and I think if they highlight that and they make it like Braun. Remember when Braun was really over because all he would do is break things and flip him over and shit. Like, that would be it doesn't have to be exactly that, but give him some kind of wrinkle where like he has like maybe he's got an anger issue and he flips the announce desk over or something. You know what I mean? Like give him a little zhuzh.
They had like a partnership with him and the Miz for like what, a week?
See, I could have liked that.
That could have led to something.
Because it's the big guy, little thing. The little guy does the talking, and not that the Miz is little, but he's Bronson Reed's.
I don't know.
Massive.
This is something that I have to just totally disagree with everybody. I think what they're doing with Bronson right now is absolutely perfect. And I think putting him up against somebody like Bobby Lashley is perfect because you have two massive powerhouses.
Oh yeah,
I mean, just watching Bobby Lashley pick Bronson up like nothing is beyond impressive to begin with.
Yeah.
And the way Bronson moves for his size and the facial expressions and everything else, I think everything
maybe
they
can do with Bronson what they should have done with Keith Lee.
Wow.
Well,
boy, did they fuck that up too.
I like that AEW.
And I'm talking before COVID, before the injuries and all, and the health stuff and all that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I saw a meme the other day, and it was with Keith Lee, and it showed a picture of him in WWE, and then a picture of him in AEW, and it says, "Sometimes it's really not better on the other side." And the picture with Keith Lee was the with like the Dracula cape and like all that shit, and it's like looking like a fucking magician on AEW.
Yeah, but I mean that it's
maybe he got cursed by Danhausen.
The one good thing I can say about that is I know for a fact that it's Keith Lee making the decision to dress up like a wizard rather than Vince McMahon going saying, let's put this black guy in a wizard robe. You know what I mean? Like that makes me feel a little bit better that at least he might have made the wrong choice for himself, but at least he's making the choice for himself.
Perhaps he's controlling his narrative.
Right. But the other thing is, I don't know if you noticed, they're kind of playing off the WWE thing of Keith Lee's release. The Jericho Appreciation Society seems to be involved in a thing with both Adam Cole and Keith Lee. And if you remember, the rumor when Keith Lee and Adam Cole left was that
Adam Cole was going to be Keith Lee's manager.
And it's so interesting to see them play off of that. 2 weeks ago, Jericho walked, Daniel Garcia to the back while staring at Keith Lee and Adam Cole. And then this past week, it was reversed, where Adam Cole left the ring consoling Keith Lee, looking back at the Jericho Appreciation Society. They're nodding. They're definitely giving a nod to that, which I think is interesting. But yeah, man, Keith Lee is another example of one of those guys that when you're hot, you're hot. And you should, in wrestling, there's no telling that, yes, this guy's going to be hot forever. Or this guy's only going to be hot for 2 months or 6 months or whatever. When somebody's hot, you got to strike. Keith Lee was so hot. They just had to strike, and they didn't do it the right way. And even now, I think he's still feeling the ripples of that. And I know injuries and COVID and all this other stuff happened, but like I think he definitely feels the ripples of like being Bearcat Keith Lee for the last like 6 months of his WWE career, and then kind of getting burned out on it, like fan perception, and it just seems like a bad.
I mean, you had so much potential with him in WWE. You know, like even when he showed up in the Rumble and Brock Lesnar was the only one in the ring, and you see Brock mouth, "Oh, look at this fucking guy." You know what I mean? Like you had the opportunity to have Keith Lee versus Brock fucking Lesnar. That would have been a main event blockbuster. And they didn't capitalize on it. If Keith Lee was still in WWE, imagine Keith Lee, Bronson Reed. Like, just so much. I almost hope Keith Lee does eventually come back to WWE. The fact that Mia Yim is still in WWE gives me hope that maybe when the contract's up, he'd want to come back. But who the hell knows? You know, who knows how happy he is or isn't in AEW right now?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you know, there's...
He seems happy, but...
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't know. You really don't know. You know, there's always speculation. Oh, the locker room's toxic. CM Punk is toxic. This guy's toxic. Everybody's toxic in wrestling. So if everybody's toxic,
everything that I'm hearing is CM Punk is definitely on his way back. So.
Well, that's the thing. If everybody's so toxic and everybody's canceled or whatever, then why do we have any wrestling company? Everybody's a bad person. How about this? Everybody in the world is just a bad person that should be canceled, and we'll just cancel everybody, and we'll just go around and what? Bang rocks together instead of have TV. So Punk apparently it is, there's some truth to the rumor of people not wanting to work with him because they were developing the Saturday show for AEW as just a show to showcase more AEW wrestlers. And now the concept has changed where CM Punk is going to work this Saturday show, and the people who are comfortable working with Punk or on the same show as Punk are going to work that show as well, and the people who don't are going to continue to work the other things.
So does that mean that Punk is only going to work the Saturday show?
Well, that's the thing. I guess we don't know yet, but there was a meeting. The Meltzer and all these guys are reporting there were meetings with Punk and Jericho, and FTR was there.
Because that's what I heard, that they were going to immediately start a feud with Punk and Jericho.
Right. That's what it sounds like. Is if they can get everybody on board, they're going to heat up Jericho versus Punk, and then that will be, rather than being Dynamite's kind of focus, it will be the focus of that Saturday show.
Right.
Wow. We got deep into it tonight. 15 minutes past the hour. Eric had to take off. Steve, do you have any final thoughts about either how WWE is looking going into Backlash, or anything that you've seen from AEW these last couple weeks as we head into their summer season of All In and All Out?
I mean, listen, AEW week after week has been a home run. The shows are great. I have nothing to. I mean, FTR being champs again, fantastic. The matches have been great. I'm loving the AEW backstage show that they're doing. I'm enjoying that a lot. As far as WWE and Backlash, I think Backlash is turning out to be a hell of a show. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm curious to see how Bad Bunny's going to be. He'll be on Raw next week or SmackDown, one of the two. And then now we have Brock Lesnar, Cody, which I am looking forward to that match and see how it plays out. I don't know that we have many matches booked for it yet. I mean, I guess we're going to have Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, which should be a great match, but I don't see Bianca dropping it to Io Sky. In fact, I could see that's where they break up Damage Control. Maybe Bayley screws over Io.
Right.
I could see that.
I think you're right with I think Damage Control is on their way out for sure. Just depends on when they're going to do it.
Well, they already started teasing it,
right.
with
but the
Becky,
official,
with Bayley getting the shot, and then them kind of bitching, and then it became Io, and then Dakota when she lost this past week. The look on Bayley's face was just pure disgust. So I think all signs are leading to they're going to disband either at Backlash, or they're going to disband where it all started at It was SummerSlam, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I could see them ending
Stretching
it at SummerSlam also.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and as we got into this Bronson Reed discussion, I totally, Steve, you're way more on top of putting the comments on the screen when you're home than I am. Tara did say, I feel like they're turning him into another Mr. Hollywood when he should book like the Beast he is. Is there? Are they turning
Hollywood?
Mr. Hollywood, like the Miz kind of thing, like a movie star guy? Like, I'm not sure what.
I don't understand what she's saying, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could say to that is maybe like when they do his video package at the very end, it's a picture of him in like a nice shirt with sunglasses.
So he's like dressing up and stuff. Okay, I see what you're saying.
But to me, that's not a gimmick. Like
not a negative. Yeah,
I thought he looked badass, quite honestly, and I don't know. This is one thing with Tyra I'm not going to agree on.
Sure
I think
and that's
everything Bronson that they're doing with him right now is gold, and they need to keep it going.
Yeah,
but he needs to win.
So it was.
That's the thing. He needs to win.
So it was that. So yeah, Tara was basically saying, it looks like the button-up shirt and the sunglasses were a step too far for Tara. But again, this is the great thing about pro wrestling is that there's so much content and there's so many wrestlers that not everybody's going to have the exact same opinion about every single circumstance. And that's great because like if Tara was just like, oh, I think this, and we're like, oh, that's a great, we all just agree, like we wouldn't have spent 10 minutes talking about it. That's why we wouldn't have anything to talk about. So we really appreciate when Tara drops in her opinions. I think it's one of those things where he's only been back for so long. Like it hasn't been that long is what I'm saying. I think.
Well, and since he has been back, we haven't really seen him in a big story.
Right.
Like I feel like this is this is his big first storyline since his return.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
it's with Bobby Lashley. So,
right.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal, and it's a proving, this is a proving ground kind of match for him. And I think that if there's going to be any sort of character development, let's say, with Bronson Reed, it's going to come during this match or after that match. If he has a big win, he comes on Raw the next night and brags about it or whatever. So, whatever he is right now, Bronson Reed probably will be a lot different in a month or 2 or 3 from now by the time SummerSlam rolls around. So, guess we'll see.
It'll be very interesting, but I have very high hopes for him. One last thing I do want to mention, and then I'll let you take it home. But
already,
the other, it seems everything I'm hearing in terms of Bray, is that this is 1,000% a physical issue.
Ooh,
that he did get injured, and that's why he hasn't been around, and he will be back. So hopefully,
I'm glad
that is the case. It's not a mental thing. It's not a,
beautiful.
There were so many different rumors going around.
It wasn't a Vince McMahon thing.
Right. It was not a Vince McMahon thing. So, not that you want to see anyone go down in injury, but I just can't believe that, WWE should have done a better job. I think, kind of like, hey, listen, Bray's out with injury. He'll be back kind of thing. But they just almost pretended like Bray was never back in the first place. Like there was no mention. There was no
weird stuff. Exactly.
Right.
They didn't get written off like a TV character. Like, if somebody leaves a TV show, they get shot or whatever.
Right. Or like when you fail a drug test and they write you out, like Matt Riddle.
You get jumped in the parking lot or something, and whatever.
Solo beat the fucking piss out of him, and then so it's going to be very interesting to see. I hope he comes back soon.
I hope it's not a very long recovery for him.
Well, but I just hope they actually do something with him because we didn't get the payoff we were expecting, and I'm still pretty butthurt about it, to be honest with you.
That's the Bray Wyatt fan experience. Unfortunately, I've been if you've been a fan of the guy for as long as he's been wrestling, it's been a frustrating decade of hoping the guy wins a big one and never actually gets it.
I mean, I'm almost at the point where bring back Redbeard, put Braun in there, and bring back the Wyatt family. I'll take it at this point. I don't need the Fiend as much as I liked it. I don't need, Mr. Rogers, Bray, although I enjoy it. Like at this point, I'll take Bray anyway. I can fucking get him. Just get him back on TV.
Yeah, and if that's what's going to take is reforming the Wyatt family, and maybe now that it's been a couple years, maybe that's a good thing. It's been gone long enough where if you tried doing it for a little while, if fans weren't into it, you just disband it again. But if they're into the reunion, you go with the reunion.
I mean, listen, with Bray Wyatt, people were captivated by his promo work in the Wyatt family, sitting in the rocking chair and, doing promos in the swamp and Sister Abigail and the whole fucking thing. There's no way that won't get over if they do it the right way again, like they did the first go around. Bray is gold on the mic. He can get anyone behind him.
Exactly. And that's always the frustrating thing is that despite all the bad stuff that happens when he gets booked, whenever they're like, okay, you're going to go back out there and you got to get the fans back on your side, he does it. And like, he can just get them interested and invested again.
Yeah.
That's about it. It's good. I like that That's a great update for Bray. Like you said, you'd hate to see somebody get injured, but when the other options are like a mental health issue or like a disagreement with the owner of the company and you're not working, like those are bad. So injury, great. Slap a fucking Band-Aid on it and get back out there, bud. I'm just
and
glad.
I mean, that's like, and I just, for the record, that's what I heard.
Right.
So take it with a grain of salt. It's not 100%, but that's
you mean you didn't call him before the show tonight? You're not personal friends with Bray Wyatt?
I tried and the fucker didn't answer my call. And I'm very upset about it.
Uncle Howdy answered the phone, but you couldn't hear him because he was wearing the mask.
Although I would have been okay with that option too, just for the record.
Of course. I guess we gave you 25 extra minutes of show today, folks. I guess we'll pack up now. Thank you for tuning in. Kat, hope everything's going well with you. You had to drop out early, handle some things. Eric had to drop out because he has to go probably do work or whatever. So thank you guys for joining us on the show. Thank you, Tara, for being in the comments. Steve, thank you as always for being here. You came in when you could make it. You hopped in even from the car, which is awesome. Glad you can make it. And guys, this is going to be the end of the show. Just follow us on social media at TagMeADate. That's TagMeADate, all one word. We're all over social media at TagMeADate on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything else. Steve's on LinkedIn. If you're connected with Steve on LinkedIn, you can see our stuff too. YouTube is TagMeADate. Everything is TagMeADate except for Twitch. Twitch.tv/War Report. WARREPORT is the Twitch. You can go ahead and add us as a friend there or save us as a favorite, whatever there. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's TagMeADate. Type in TagMeADate in the search bar. Hit subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when we go live or when we upload a video. Most of the time it's going live, and it's 6 p.m. Eastern time on a Tuesday evening. If you prefer the archive, you can go to YouTube or Twitch for the archives of our old shows. Facebook, the same thing. We stream 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, all over the place. We live stream even on Steve's LinkedIn. So we're live streaming all over the internet. Our archive is mainly on Twitch and YouTube. And if you prefer the audio version instead of the video version, you can head on over to your favorite podcast app, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, whatever it is that you use. Just put in our show name, The War Report, or put in TagMeADate. It should come up. If you do put in The War Report, there are 2 podcasts with the name The War Report. They both discuss pro wrestling. We've made it nice and easy for you. The graphic and the description of our show on the podcast apps will say TagMeADate prominently. It will say Steve or Vince. It will say the names of the characters on this show. So you can definitely tell the difference between the two. We've also been doing it for about 7 years longer than they have. That's about it. And also, if you're a fan of wrestling, you're listening to the show and you're enjoying it, please give it a share. Give it a like, give it a comment, whatever. We enjoy people being in the live comment section like Tara, so we can pop your comment or question up on the screen and discuss it. We want more people to join us. So if you're a wrestling fan and you know other wrestling fans that are looking for a podcast to listen to, we're just a group of friends. We're just a group of friends who likes talking about wrestling, throwing shit around, discussing the what ifs and then answering questions that come in during the comments. So please join us. The more the merrier. Let your friends know that there's there's a podcast that you enjoy and you'd like them to get to listen to. And, maybe we can earn your patronage. So thank you guys for tuning in. Bradley Messer. Oh, Bradley. Is that somebody in here as well? Hey, Bradley. Wow, we got another person in the chat. So, you can go ahead and if you came in late, you can rewind this stream to catch the whole thing, or you can go back and watch our archive. Otherwise, we'll be back next week, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Eastern time for another edition of the War Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.